Hello, Mr. David Waters, who is running for the Cherokee County Sheriff. I'm Trenton Adams, and welcome to the Cherokee County Republican Party candidate interviews. Thank you for taking time out of your campaign to participate in this interview process, and we've extended this invitation to all candidates in this race and sourced questions from the CCRP membership. We have found that it has been an asset to voters in making their decision. The video will appear on the Cherokee County GOP website and will be shared on social media. The interview will be shown unedited in its entirety. For the interview, we will ask you a number of questions but can offer no prompting. There are no right or wrong answers, just your answers. And we ask each candidate the same questions. If this is all right with you, I'll have everyone else introduce themselves, and then I'll ask John to start the questions.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm John Longshore.
John, how you doing?
And I am Rick Davies, chairman of the party, sitting in as a third panelist.
Yes, sir.
All right, so the first question is, under which branch of government is the sheriff, and what do you believe the sheriff's role and relationship is with the other two branches of government?
The branch is law enforcement. You have it law enforcement, you have administrative, they're all connected. The sheriff's office, I'm not sure I understand your question. That's all I can, the sheriff's office is his branch. I mean, it is law enforcement, that is the branch. You have administrative, you have law enforcement, so I guess it would be law enforcement.
What types of gun control laws and legislation do you support?
I support the Second Amendment. I'm for weapons for Cherokee County and for the state of Georgia. I've carried a weapon for 35 years approximately. So I'm very much in support of the Second Amendment.
Please explain your position on the issue of citizens filming police officers in public places.
I have no problem with that. If we do what we should be doing, nobody should have a problem with us being filmed when we enforce laws or assist our public.
Why is the marshal's office a distinct entity from the sheriff's department?
You know, I'm not really sure. I know it's left up to the Board of Commission. I'll give you some history. Let me see if I can get my dates correct. In 1992, I believe Cherokee County had a county police department. It was not a marshal's office. And I believe it was disbanded in maybe 96. It started in 92, excuse me. It was assembled in 92 as a Cherokee County Police Department. I think in 96 it was disbanded, I think by the current sheriff and the Board of Commission. At that point in time, I assume the arrest powers were taken away from them at that point.
The marshal's office is tasked with enforcing noise ordinance violations, which typically occur during those hours that the marshal's office is closed. Would you push to have this incorporated as a mutually applicable law rather than a separate jurisdiction issue?
Absolutely, we insist. Obviously, the marshal's office can't work 24/7, whereas the sheriff does. The deputies work 24/7. So anything that occurs within the county, and if we get called on it, certainly we would answer it, regardless of the time of day. Doesn't have to be after hours. We would assist during the day hours.
Paragraph 8 of the Georgia Constitution states that searches, seizures, and warrants, the rights of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, and papers and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue except upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, particularly describing the place or places to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Please describe the difference between a reasonable and an unreasonable search.
Reasonable, you have to look at probable cause. First, you have to define probable cause. Probable cause is defined as less than certainty, but more than mere suspicion that would lead a reasonable person to believe that a crime has been or is about to be committed against a person's property and or life. So that would be reasonable. Unreasonable is anything less of that.
Are you currently up to date with all post certifications, and what are they?
All post certifications, I'm totally up to date with my post certifications. There's numerous post certifications, and I am up to date. Now, because my last day of employment was in February of 2013, anybody that has a break in law enforcement must have a 20-hour in service to reinstate That's it. It's in-service training. Anybody has that. And actually, you have to do that every year.
Are you currently employed by a law enforcement agency?
I am not. I'm retired.
Have you attended and been certified by the FBI Academy?
No, I've attended and certified by the Southern Police Institute, which is SPI. They're a little bit different. I'll explain the difference. SPI is 100% academic. FBI is academic and physical. You have PT, you have those kind of things. SPI, again, is 100% academic, and it's 12 weeks long.
When was the last training event that you attended, and please describe it?
The last training event was last year. Deadly force and weapons training.
As Cherokee County residents, if we asked your current or last supervisor which area of your work ethic needed the most improvement, what would we learn?
Okay, repeat that question. I'm sorry.
As Cherokee County residents, if we asked your current or last supervisor which area of your work ethic needed the most improvement, what would we learn?
I hope you would get a everything is good. My work ethics is very well. I've had no problem out of roughly 35 years. Evaluations I've always exceeded. I've always managed to receive the top evaluations in law enforcement. So I don't think you'd find a bad work ethic.
If you could start your career over again, what would you do differently?
I don't think I'd do anything differently. I've been very blessed in law enforcement. As anyone, you start out most of the time with working the detention center, then you move to patrol, then you move into investigations. My work history's been, I don't think I'd really change anything. I've commanded every aspect of a sheriff's office. I've worked roughly 4.5 to 5 years with a district attorney's office. I don't see that I would change anything.
Thank you. Would you support releasing inmates who are awaiting trial based on the risk to the community instead of whether or not they can post bail?
If an inmate is in jail, he must post bail. Under my administration, he would. There's a clause that the sheriff can let an inmate sign his own bail, but if there are risks to the community, I would not do that. No, sir.
What are your thoughts on the federal government passing laws providing for the control of privately owned firearms?
I totally disagree with it.
What is your plan to rid our county of illicit drug makers and traffickers?
Hard enforcement, drug enforcement. Right now, I don't know if you've kept up with this, but right now the heroin epidemic in Cherokee County is it's the worst epidemic in my career. From January the 1st of last year till December 31st of last year, for a 12-month period, we've got 89 deaths of heroin OD. Already from January the 1st of this year until the present day today, we're at I think we're like at 22 that's OD'd inside Cherokee County. And the way to rid that is, number one, of education. You have to educate our society, and society is everybody, including me, everybody. When we do the education, then it's a very strict enforcement on narcotic dealings that's going on in Cherokee County.
What is your plan to address and prevent human trafficking within Cherokee County?
There again, you have to investigate, locate, and then you have to arrest. It all goes to education. Human trafficking is kidnapping small adults, for instance, a young girl or a young boy. So we get into the schools. You'll hear me talk about School Resource Officers Program. It's strictly not, it is not to take the job away from the school police that we have today. It's only to help in our school system. So it's to educate, it's stranger danger, it's what to look for, stay away from bad things, and that's what we teach our young youth. So it's strictly education and visibility in our neighborhoods. That's called community policing. You want to get out and you want to communicate with parents. Anything bad, we want to teach them to stay away from that. We take the less that we can reduce the likelihood of being victimized, then we certainly done our job.
Do you consider it unethical to promise anyone a position in the Cherokee County Sheriff's Department to garner support for your election?
Actually, I do. I've not promised anybody a job. I've heard from other people that I have. Let me set the record straight today, I have not. Actually, let me finish that. I think the sheriff's office has good men and women working there. And I can't fathom anybody coming in, a new sheriff, and firing somebody just so they can bring a buddy in. If I'm elected sheriff, I'm not in office to give buddies jobs. I'll be in office to serve and protect the citizens of Cherokee County.
Would holding an annual or biannual public sheriff town hall meetings be rewarding for the county?
Absolutely. We plan on doing at least 2 a year, one north, one south. And those are opened up for the citizens to come out and ask the sheriff anything that they want to ask. He should be available to the people. The sheriff should be available in the communities. The people in the community should not have to come to him. He should be out and be visible.
What actions would you take, if any, a federal agency did not notify the county sheriff's department of a forced property seizure or conducted operations in the county without prior notification? Does the sheriff have a role in defending individuals in the county from improper federal overreach?
The sheriff does. He's your constitutional law enforcement. He is the only person in the county that's sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States. The federal government, when they come in, they can't come in and take your weapons. All we would do is to educate our citizens and tell them, if that were to happen, contact me immediately, contact their office immediately. And we have units out in every zone, every beat, every area of Cherokee County. We would be there in a very short time. So your question would be, would we allow it? Absolutely not.
Differing from a law enforcement response to an immediate danger to life or property, no-knock search warrants allows for an immediate breach of entry into a home, even though not specifically authorized by OCGA 17-5-27. Do you support the use of no-knock search warrants in Cherokee County? And if so, under what circumstances would you use a no-knock warrant?
Very strict supervision with no-knock. Law enforcement has lots of things in our toolbox, just like any other profession. So a no-knock search warrant is in our toolbox. So the only way that we would use a no-knock search warrant would be under life and death situations, and only life and death situations. The only time that you can get a search warrant, a no-knock search warrant, you must fill out an affidavit, and it has to go to a Superior Court judge, magistrate, to get those no-knock search warrants. Under no circumstances would my agency, the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office, be allowed to obtain a no-knock search warrant without my signature. In my absence, it would be my deputy chief's signature. Under no circumstances would that be allowed if it didn't have one of the two signatures. Most of the time it would have mine. The reason being is because as a sheriff, I am responsible for our citizens. I'm also responsible for the employees that work for you, the taxpayer. So I would never allow a no-knock search warrant to go in to obtain fruits of a crime, such as narcotic or those kind of things. Strictly under a life and death situation. And what I mean by that, if someone was holding a hostage, a child, a wife, a husband, whatever it may be, those would be the only criteria that under my administration we would ever utilize a no-knock search warrant. Out of 35 years service, I think I've seen one.
Thank you. Civil forfeiture involves the government taking property that belongs to a citizen upon reasonable suspicion. To regain property from the government, a citizen must prove the innocence of both themselves and of the property being seized, in opposition to the presumption of innocence. And the seizing party is allowed to directly profit from items seized by a civil forfeiture. The states of Minnesota and New Mexico have passed laws that permit asset forfeiture only in cases of conviction. Do you agree with this? Why or why not?
I believe Representative Scott Turner tried to introduce a bill with the verbiage that you're speaking. And I do agree. I agree that the state, and that would be the sheriff's office as well, has a right to seize property under the rules and regs that's laid before us through OCGA. Under my administration, we would never use that money or vehicles. We would never sell it unless we did get a conviction. Now, you're trying to combine criminal and civil actions, administrative actions together. And I think that's what people may or may not understand. I think it gets real confusing at that point. But rest assured, under my administration, yes, we will seize property if we have probable cause to do so. We will in fact seize that. But that doesn't mean that we would benefit from it. That doesn't mean that we would sell someone's house or vehicles before a guilty verdict. So you may ask what happens if it's not found guilty. If it's not guilty, then my opinion is give it back.
A member of Cherokee County's legislative delegation has submitted legislation HB 832, which states, "The court shall stay civil forfeiture proceedings during the pendency of criminal proceedings resulting from a related indictment or accusation until such time as the criminal proceedings result in a plea of guilty, a conviction after trial, or an acquittal after trial, or are otherwise concluded before the trial court." As sheriff, would you support civil asset forfeiture before or after due process and a criminal conviction?
I think that's what I just explained, yes.
Bills have been introduced to allow LEO to ask for carry permits of anyone carrying a sidearm. While currently not passed in Georgia, if such a law were to pass, would you, as a policy, prohibit your deputies from asking for permits solely on the basis of carrying?
Under the law OCGA now, you cannot ask. Is that what you're referring to? You cannot ask for someone's weapons license, carrying license. Just because they have a weapon on their side, the state law, OCGA, does not give you the right to ask to see proof of that. So no, we would not ask. We would stand with that person till we gained enough probable cause. Once we had developed probable cause, then certainly we would ask. Yes.
Do you believe that body cameras would effectively solve the problem they're proposed to solve?
I think it's a plus. I think it's a very necessary tool. Remember I talked about a toolbox? Then that is definitely a tool that we would want in our toolbox. Here's the theory. The cameras have been around for years. This is not a new thing in law enforcement. When we stop people, even back in the 90s, we have cameras in squad cars. And normally when you see a police officer or a deputy sheriff or state trooper doing field sobriety to somebody that's expected or suspected of being intoxicated, then they do field sobriety in front of the car, the patrol unit. The reason being is because there's a camera pointed right at it. The officer also has a mic attached to his uniform, and it's videoed and audio. So the cameras have been around a long time. So the question now is do I think cameras aid in law enforcement and society? Absolutely, absolutely, because it catches both ways. There's been lots of times that, I say lots of times, there's been times to where we've had complaints filed on officers for being rude and those kind of things. And when we go back and look at the video, they were as nice as they could be. There have been times when we've had complaints and officers have been rude, and it revealed exactly that. So I'm for cameras anytime law enforcement can use them, absolutely.
Are you currently a member of the Cherokee County Republican Party?
I am.
We would like our elected Republican leaders to help us grow the party. Please briefly describe any significant efforts you have made in the past to support the Republican Party and/or Republican candidates locally, statewide, or nationally.
Well, number one is votes. I always vote for Republican candidates. Number two, I pay my dues to the Republican Party. I attend functions with the Republican Party. I don't know of anything I could do any more that I'm not doing other than run for office for the Republican Party, which I probably will never do. But I will support the Republican Party always.
Have Have you ever been arrested or convicted of a crime excluding traffic offenses?
No, sir.
And have you ever been the subject of professional discipline or cited for breach of ethics or unprofessional conduct by any disciplinary committee, court, administrative agency, or other professional group?
One time, I wrecked a patrol car. Out of all the miles that I have placed on a patrol unit over roughly 35 years, I was in an accident, and I got disciplined for that. It was my fault. I had just come off of a hostage situation that lasted probably about 6 hours with our SWAT and negotiation team. That time, you have a lot of adrenaline going because it truly is life and death. And I got into a patrol unit, and I came to a four-way stop sign. The vehicle in front of me was taking a right-hand turn, and I was looking to my left to go through this intersection, and the vehicle in front of me stopped. I thought that vehicle continued to travel, and I hit the vehicle in the back, and I was at fault, following too close. No one was injured. There was no injury on the either car, but it was still my fault. So yes.
Well, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you so much.
And if you'd like to say anything else for the interview or the camera, you can do that now.
Yes, David Waters here. Please vote for me for sheriff. I ran in 2012, and I'm back again. I want to be your sheriff. I ask for your votes, and I ask for your prayers. Thank you very much.